USG polls officially open at midnight. We'll talk with a USG representative about how campaign violations compared this year to those of the past.
Residents in Porter Ranch are still feeling the effects of a gas leak that forced them out of their homes. We'll hear from some of those who were affected.
And some Romanian citizens spent their weekend protesting. Coming up, we'll talk to a high school student who participated.
Annenberg TV News is next.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
Well, USG polls are opening tonight amidst controversy. Good evening, I'm Jake Ingracia.
And I'm Gabriella Vidal. We spoke with the campaign on the evening before the election begins.
USG presidential and vice presidential candidates Austin Dunn and Morgan Monahan will pay out of pocket for violating social media campaign rules early last week. Austin and Morgan created a secret Facebook group before the official campaigning period began, giving them a 32-hour head start. Their campaign was initially sanctioned with a 48-hour ban on social media campaigning and was issued 2 strikes, with 9 strikes leading to disqualification.
Our ticket actually feels like we received even more of a punishment than was intended due to all of the publicity that came out after.
Austin and Morgan's opponents appealed the ruling, pushing for a harsher punishment. The USG Judicial Council said Austin and Morgan knowingly broke the rules, issuing the campaign 2 more strikes and revoking 2/3 of the $1,500 campaign reimbursement. The Rebecca Rachel campaign was issued 1 strike for giving this promotional t-shirt to a friend prior to the campaigning period. They say the strike system hasn't been applied evenly.
So we got 1 strike for 1 person, and they originally got 2 strikes for 350 plus people. We do not think that is enough at all.
Austin, USG's sitting vice president, told the hearing committee he broke the rules because it had been done in the past. Heard here in this audio recording.
The only way I know how to run a campaign is how I was taught, how I learned. That in no way makes it right, but that is what I knew.
The Millian Vorhoff campaign manager says they hope to change that precedent.
Austin even said it himself. All the past campaigns that he's been involved in have been doing the same thing. So right now we just want to change the system, the way this thing is done, so that it's more fair in the future.
I couldn't even tell you how many infractions my ticket has right now. I just know we're not at 9 and we're not going to get to 9. And that's that for me.
And Danielle Bunyard is the Assistant Director of Elections for USG. She joins us now here live in the studio. Thanks so much for coming in, Danielle.
Thanks for having me.
So we just want to get right to that number, 9 strikes to disqualify you from a campaign. Why is that the precedent?
Yeah, so 9 strikes has been the precedent for at least the past 4 years. This is only my 3rd election here with USG. I'm only a junior. So I'm not really aware of what the precedent and logic behind creating that 9 was back then. But those elections teams of the past years haven't seen reason to change it.
But 9 strikes, doesn't that seem like a lot to disqualify a candidate? So
it can, but when you look at the elections code, there's a lot that can be brought as a violation, and there's a lot that can be interpreted, which is why the Elections Commission is so important. And so I feel like personally that those 9 strikes give you some opportunity that when you aren't aware of every little delineation of the code, that when you do make a mistake, there is some opportunity to not immediately be disqualified.
Right, and then in terms of applying those 9 or a strike to any violation, you heard there in the package 1 strike applied to 1 person, whereas the other strikes for Austin and Morgan applied to hundreds of people in that Facebook group. Yeah. So how do you consistently apply a strike?
Sure. So the Elections Commission, of which I'm not a voting member, I'm just the chair there for procedural purposes, they are able to determine, and the Elections Code actually specifies that they determine a strike based on the severity, the effect on the election, the intent of the candidate. So there are a lot of things that go into deciding what goes into 1 strike. So it's not just a matter of how many individuals were affected or reached, but rather what is the total impact of the violation.
Gotcha. Danielle Bunyard, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And voting for this 2017 USG election begins tomorrow and will run through Thursday. You can vote online or at one of the 3 campuses locations at Tommy Trojan, Levy Library, or the Physical Education Building.
All right, well, thank you so much, Jake, for that interview. And residents near the Aliso Canyon Natural Gas Facility say that they're still feeling the health effects of a gas leak back in October through 2015. Annenberg Media's Kaylee Heck spoke with one Granada Hills woman who wants it shut down.
Jane Fowler's first sign that something was wrong came from the dogs in her neighborhood.
My dog dies, another friend's dog dies, a neighbor's dog dies. So we're thinking, what is going on?
She says Granada Hills is still dealing with problems from the natural gas leak in 2015 at the Aliso Canyon facility.
It's hard on you psychologically, emotionally, physically. It's rough.
She says her hair fell out.
See how thin it is?
And she was forced to move from her home for 7 months. After getting the all clear to move back, things still didn't improve.
Literally 8 hours after I arrived home, my stomach blew up and it looked like I was pregnant.
The ongoing issues are why consumer watchdog Ann Fowler say Aliso Canyon needs to be closed for good.
But they've moved back into a contaminated environment, contaminated homes, right up against a facility that, despite being closed down now, is still leaking.
Bipartisan senators recently released Senate Bill 57, which would place a freeze on the Aliso Canyon storage facility until the root cause investigation is completed. SoCalGas said in a statement that SB 57 is unnecessary and that their facilities are safe and meet all regulations. Governor Brown's office said in a statement, decisions on the facility will be guided by facts, science, and safety. But Fowler says she wants the governor to act now.
So the only way that we can see something done immediately is with Governor Jerry Brown.
So that she and her community can finally breathe freely. For Annenberg Media, I'm Kaylee Heck.
The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals will hear arguments against President Trump's travel ban tomorrow evening. In response, the Department of Justice insists that the executive order should be reinstated. The DOJ cites national security as a primary concern. Meanwhile, 97 tech companies, including Apple, Facebook, and Google, filed an amicus brief against the ban. They say, quote, immigrants make many of the nation's greatest discoveries and create some of the country's most iconic companies. Immigrants are among our leading entrepreneurs, politicians, artists, and philanthropists.
And 3 California college students are also suing President Trump over his travel ban. We reached out to one of those students who's at Stanford. She's concerned about seeing her husband in Yemen. This was my chance of standing against something that is unjust and in speaking up and defend the rights of the people who are affected by the ban. The students' goal with the suit is to safely visit their homes and return without any issues.
From protests to celebrations, Europe has been pretty busy today.
Annenberg Media's Claudia Buccio is here to share some of the insights on today's international news.
That's exactly right. It's all about Europe today. Romanian citizens are taking to the streets to protest a controversial rule that would have eased up on corruption offenses. The law prompted over 500,000 protesters to take action for almost a week, making this crowd the largest anti-government protest since 1989. The Romanian government responded on Sunday by withdrawing the controversial executive order. I spoke to one high school student who took part in this demonstration.
We'll be in the streets in the following day. This is our 7th day of protest, and we're not backing down. We want Romania to be a country that deserves to be in the European Union. We do not want to go back to the communist system.
The Romanian government still plans to submit a new version of the law to Parliament. For now, protesters are also calling for the Romanian Prime Minister to step down. It's not all bad news. The UK is celebrating Queen Elizabeth II's Sapphire Jubilee, which means that the monarch has been in power for 65 years. The Queen already broke the record as the world's longest reigning monarch, and now she is the first British royal honored with the Sapphire Jubilee. I spoke to a fellow USC abroad student to see how London congratulated the Queen.
If you look at a normal newspaper, everything on its front page, and since I've been here, I mean, this is probably an over-exaggeration, has been about Brexit. Today it was all about the Sapphire Jubilee in terms of a media standpoint.
Apparently, the Queen decided to take it easy on her big day, but plans for her Platinum Jubilee in 2022 are already in the works. Back to you, Jake and Gabby.
Well, a new ordinance in Los Angeles affects the homeless. We'll show you how, coming up.
A big break in 24-year-old cold case now has suspects under arrest. We'll have details on how they were caught.
And another rainy day in Southern California. See if it's made a dent in the drought.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it.
While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed our own.
Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
An immigration attorney visited the university today to provide information for students affected by Trump's travel ban, which continues to impact the USC community. About 100 students gathered at the Tudor Campus Center. The attorney advised students to refrain from traveling if they don't need to. A postdoctoral student says that he knows a lot about the students affected by the ban.
I've talked to a lot of concerned students, and there has been as little as, oh, my friend was coming from my wedding and now they can't. I was going to have my wedding, my parents can't come to the country, or people have said that I left for a funeral and now I can't come back in.
Students are advising each other to communicate with their families and stay informed as possible about any changes to the travel ban.
Well, a new Los Angeles City ordinance bans people from sleeping overnight in their cars near homes, parks, and schools. Here's Annenberg Media's Terrence Davis, who talked with community activists and legal experts about how this will affect the homeless population.
Thousands of people sleep in their cars every night across Los Angeles. Ashley Shepard says she's been doing it for 4 years.
You can't go in store parking lots. You can't go in a parking lot. You can't go anywhere. And this is the only street that I know of that you can be. And even then, it's still touch and go whether you can be here or not.
Noise, crime, and unsanitary conditions are the major reasons lawmakers passed the new ordinance that bans people from sleeping in their cars in residential neighborhoods. But the Los Angeles Community Action Network believes the ordinance unfairly targets the homeless population.
Why are we passing laws that make it harder for somebody who's already going through it, right? And so what 8502 will just put further restrictions on where people who have nowhere else to live can be or can't be.
The new city ordinance would allow car dwellers to park their vehicles in commercial and industrial zones, like the one behind me in Venice Beach. However, the problem is only 10% of LA's streets have been designated for citizens who are forced to live out of their vehicles.
This ordinance makes it even harder for them to simply exist in Los Angeles. And that's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing as a city in terms of our policies. We should be making it easier for people to move out of homelessness, and any ordinance that criminalizes homelessness simply defeats that purpose.
Anyone caught in their car faces a fine up to $75. From Annenberg Media, I'm Terrence Davis.
The 1993 LA apartment fire is considered by law enforcement officials to be one of the most horrific cases of arson fire in LA history. The fire killed 7 children and 3 women, 2 of whom were pregnant. After 25 years of investigation, police arrested 3 people they believe started the fire. The 3 suspects, Ramiro Valerio, Joseph Monge, and Joanna Lopez, are pending capital murder charges and may face the death penalty. As members of the 18th Street gang, they sold narcotics from the building. Officials say witnesses from the scene were too scared to come forward in the past.
In most cases, time can hinder a prosecution, but in this case, time was actually on our side. During the original investigation, witnesses who were living in fear of the gang members who controlled their neighborhood would not cooperate with the police. Now, 24 years later, they are willing to testify to what they saw and heard on that deadly day.
LAPD says there is one more suspect in the case, though his name hasn't yet been revealed. District Attorney Jackie Lacey will begin working on the case tomorrow. Now, it's been a pretty rainy day today, but maybe this will help alleviate the drought in California.
Yeah, might make a dent. Hey, Addie, how's that weather looking?
It's not looking too great right now, Jake. We got some showers for sure, and you better hold on to those umbrellas, unfortunately, because we're going to see some rain again tomorrow. But let's take a look at those current conditions we got out there. There's some sprinkles of showers. We got 60 degrees, so make sure to wear a jacket, preferably with a hood, to keep your hair safe from the rain. Now let's take a look at those mountain regions for tomorrow. We're looking at Big Bear at 50 degrees, and we got low 70s in Palm Springs and 60s in the rest of the area. Now let's take a look more towards the coast. Pretty much low 60s throughout the area. We got 62 there in Malibu, and let's take a look at the USC area. Pretty much 60s, low 60s throughout here, 62 at LAX and 63 right here at USC. Now let's take a look at your 5-day forecast. We've got rain coming for Tuesday and Wednesday as well, and also Saturday, unfortunately. But Friday, we got some partly cloudy weather. That's looking good. And some 60s, and I guess a high 76 on Thursday, which is always great to see. So kind of a mix of everything we've got for this week, but definitely don't put away those umbrellas. Now, we've seen a lot of rain this past month, so we contacted the National Weather Service to get an update on the drought here in Los Angeles.
We still have an area that shows D3, which is extreme drought. And the reason that extreme drought is still shown there is because that area has gotten quite a bit of rain in January, but there hasn't been enough to generate really good stream flow. The more we conserve now, the better off we're going to be later as well.
Though some Southern California areas like Los Angeles may still be in extreme drought conditions, there has been improvement. This past January, rainfall in Los Angeles reached 200% over the average, with LA getting approximately 8 inches of rain. Now, to show you what that looks like, we emptied a Pepsi bottle and filled it with water. So look at that, almost 2 liters of rain. That's crazy. That is 8 inches of rain. And February and March tend to be California's wettest months, and if this continues, we should see major progress for the drought. So looking forward to that, hoping to get some rainfall, even though it's not very convenient for us, but it'll be great for the drought. So we're hoping for that coming.
Drought's not over yet, though. Keep those umbrellas handy. Thank you so much, Addie. And the rain is affecting students and athletes alike. Reporter Beverly Pham talked to some Trojans to find out how they're dealing with the wet conditions.
Heavy rains make getting to class that much harder on a Monday. Then, a brief power outage interrupted student activities, including here at Trojan Vision, and trapped at least one student in an elevator at SGM.
It was really scary. I didn't know what to do because I've never been stuck in an elevator before. And it dropped and started to shake.
An LA Department of Water and Power spokesperson could not confirm whether rain was the cause of the power outage. The power outage affected most of the buildings across campus and off-campus USC housing in Greek Row. However, despite the all-day rain forecast, practice is still going on as scheduled for USC athletes.
Once it rains, classes, the attendance gets cut in half pretty much. Not very many people go. So it's really funny seeing that. People typically freak out when they say, I saw a practice.
But for some USC facilities, the rain is more than just an inconvenience. It's a hazard.
There's not really much of a drain, so lane 1 gets pretty flooded if it rains. And the track's a little worn down, so it can be pretty slippery if you don't have your spikes on.
And it can get slippery out there just walking on campus, so watch where you're going. For Annenberg Media, I'm Beverly Pham.
Well, I saw the Super Bowl this weekend, and I thought it was incredible. What was your favorite part, Jake?
You know, I had to say Lady Gaga jumping off of that stadium had me just, wow.
Out of your seat. That's incredible. No, it was a great performance. But I also liked the game a lot. And I know that Chris and Lago saw the game, so I want to hear more about what you thought about it.
Very closely.
Oh, very closely. Thanks, guys. And we'll have more on the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history later in the show. But first, we got to talk the Trojans. The USC men's basketball team is hot off the road and ready to keep their 4-game win streak alive as they take on the Oregon schools this week. And when we return, I'm throwing it back to the 2017 Rose Bowl game as 3 Trojans were honored by the State Senate for their incredible win. Stay tuned.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home walk restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
French fries. Finding best potatoes.
No!
Russet. Fingerling. Yukon bowl.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
And welcome back to ATVN. For all the Trojan fans out there who can't get enough of the Rose Bowl, you're in luck. The California Senate honored the USC football team today with a Rose Bowl resolution to commemorate their big win. Deontay Burnett, Chris Hawkins, and Leon McQuay made the trip to the Capitol in Sacramento, where they were presented with a formal framed resolution for their historic 25th Rose Bowl win. And to the pool, the USC women's water polo team is gearing up for a Friday matchup against Santa Clara in the opening round of the Triton Invitational. After 3 wins this weekend where they outscored their opponents by over 60 goals, Captain Brianna DeBow is excited to keep their momentum going.
Well, we try not to worry so much about the record, but just taking it game by game and really just focusing on each possession. Minimizing our defensive mistakes and executing on offense. So that's our game plan.
The women of Troy are currently 10-0 this season. And on to the court, the men's basketball team is awaiting the arrival of the Oregon schools this week after sweeping its recent Washington road trip. The 2 wins marked the first road sweep of the Andy Enfield era. And leading the way for the Trojans were sophomore forwards Benny Boatwright and Chimezi Metu. The two are playing together for the first time in 6 weeks due to Boatwright's sprained knee injury. With me now is sports correspondent Aaron Glazer to talk about what his return means for the Trojans. So Aaron, what makes these 2 guys so good together?
So the deal with these 2 guys is they play really well together in the paint. They really complement each other in the front court. And for Chimezi, the absence of Benny is really hard to get to the basket alone. And the defense knows that. But with Benny there, that's such an added presence. He can really make his own move, do his own thing, and just overall helps out the offense to do its thing.
I know it's awesome to see the dynamic duo back together, but they, along with the rest of the team, going to take on the Oregon schools this week, Oregon State and Oregon. What can we expect from those 2 matchups?
Kristen, let's start with Oregon State, and honestly, I think we can expect a USC victory. Oregon State, they are 4-20 on the year. Now, this guy, Stephen Thompson Jr., could give him a little bit of trouble. He's out of Bishop Montgomery in Los Angeles, a 6'4" sophomore. He is a good player, but his teammates are not as strong, and I do think that USC can pull this one out.
Okay, what about Oregon? I know they're ranked number 5 in the AP poll, so how's that going to look?
Oregon's a bit of a different ballgame. They beat USC. They gave USC their first loss of the year in Eugene a bit of a while ago when guys like Peyton Pritchard and Tyler Dorsey did minimal damage, even though they're the more known players. But this guy, Dylan Brooks, did a lot of damage to USC. He had 28 points the last time these 2 teams played. So it's important for USC in order to contain the Ducks to stop Pritchard, Dorsey, but really Brooks and get that full team effect to get an upset at home.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out this week. But we spoke to Boatwright and Metu about staying focused on Oregon State with a top 5 team looming and where USC stands midway through Pac-12 play.
One game at a time. Not worried about Oregon, but Oregon State, they're a very good team and they're capable of beating us. We're really excited because we kind of struggled a bit when the league first started, and just to kind of have things going our way, so it feels good.
Patriots were the ones to hoist the Lombardi Trophy last night. The real winner may have been social media. On Twitter, there were over 5.6 billion views of tweets, including the hashtag SB51. Couple that with the 27.6 million tweets surrounding the game, and you get one of the most social Super Bowls yet. The top 3 Twitter moments of the game included the end of Lady Gaga's halftime show, Patriots wide receiver Danny Amendola's 2-point conversion to tie the game, and the Patriots' overtime drive to win the game. And of the most mentioned athletes, no surprise there, quarterback Tom Brady was the most talked about athlete on Sunday. Too bad the now 5-time Super Bowl winner still does not have a Twitter account to tag him on. And with the 111.3 million viewers in total, it's safe to say this Super Bowl 51 was one for the books.
Definitely agree. It was so exciting. And for someone who isn't the biggest fan of football, I definitely enjoyed this game and could get used to watching more.
Always a great show. Kristen, thank you. While some USC students were watching the Super Bowl, others were watching themselves in the commercials.
Next up,
The next 30 seconds can save you a lot of money. Just do your laundry in cold and stick to full loads. Auto-sleep your computers. Plug your gadgets in a power strip and switch it off when you're done. Headed out? Turn back your thermostat by 10 degrees. And drive sensibly. The more energy you save, the more money you save. Find other great tips at energysaver.gov.
Thank you, dear. Oh, you're very supple. Just like I was at your age. Back then, I was a sex expert. Used to call me the buttered biscuit. I know about birth control, too. So you can ask me anything, baby.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
Have you had sex in this car yet?
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
10 students from the USC Kaufman School of Dance appeared in a commercial to promote tourism in Los Angeles during last night's Super Bowl. Kaufman director Jody Gates choreographed the commercial. MSA Talent Agency selected the dancers out of a pool of 51 applicants.
We were potentially in a $1 million commercial, which is kind of crazy that millions of people saw, and it was both of our first commercial.
Yeah, so that is definitely an experience I definitely won't ever forget.
Yeah.
Especially getting that call and I was like, oh my God, it actually aired.
The commercial aired on Fox right before the game kicked off. Thanks for watching Annenberg TV News. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Gabriella Vidal.
And I'm Jake Ingrassia. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com. Good night.